Welcome back, y'all. In today's video, we are going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's hand tools. Moving to southern Missouri is the best thing I've ever done for my family. And if that doesn't interest you, I tell you what, you are going to not want to hear this video because it is literally all about just hand tools. When I was even young, I actually loved to crack jokes, and I would say this saying, which I coined and really hasn't taken off, but we don't want to give the machines all the muscles. And although I was like 9 years old and saying that and thinking it was funny, it's actually kind of true, right? I would say that hand tools are part of my longevity program. So in today's video, we're not just going to talk about any hand tools. We're going to talk about the hand tools I think that you should have on your homestead in Missouri, and also some that are excellent for you preppers out there. We are going to start with one of my absolute favorite tools, and that is the McLeod. I have mentioned it in previous videos. I honestly think that everybody, but particularly everyone with a homestead, should have this tool. I actually did a little background history on it, which I thought was interesting. And the reason why it's probably more rare to find in Missouri is it was literally designed for wildfire suppression and for building trail. So it was a U.S. Forest Service ranger. His name was Malcolm McLeod. In 1905. He invented the McLeod. And he's one of my heroes. I think it's such a good tool. The reason why I love the McLeod is because it is such a good tool when you just need to quickly level something out, whether you're building or it's in gardening or you are kind of doing some sort of landscaping thing or putting in a trail. I think it's such a diverse and simple tool. Some people call it a fire rake, and the reason why it's big for wildfire suppression is, especially in California on some of this super rugged terrain, is you can't get heavy equipment in to cut your fire line. And so how I was raised and how I was brought up is that we would go out with volunteer fire departments and be cutting wildfire fire lines, fire breaks by hand. And that is hard work that will keep you honest, let me tell you. The reason why I think this tool is so perfect for Missouri is, so one side has serrated teeth and the other side a sharpened blade. And it's really nice because on the sharpened blade, you're cutting, and because it's a wide tool, you're cutting these nice flat lines, but then you have, let's say, a rock, and you can easily go from each side, and the teeth side or maybe the edge of the flat side really nicely pick up rocks. And also the flat side is amazing for chopping roots. So it's really frustrating if you're trying to make a nice flat surface where there's roots. And yeah, you definitely can do it with a shovel, but I'm just telling you, try a McLeod. It'll change your life. But we are in Missouri, so although the tooth or the prong or the edge of the McLeod will catch a rock, in Missouri it might not get that rock out because the rock is actually a boulder. And that's where we're going to talk about the next tool. Everybody probably does have one of these already, I'm hoping, and that's a pickaxe. I just had to bring it up because it's so essential, especially for all of the rock removal that you may be doing if you're trying to move dirt by hand in Missouri. But here's what's crazy. The boulders are so big, even you're gonna wear out that pickaxe, and the pickaxe won't be able to get out the size of boulder that you're gonna find. Which brings us to our next tool. The next tool is so essential if you are actually digging nice size holes for putting in, let's say, wood fence posts or something like that, and that is the rock bar. I feel like it's less common that you find people, honestly, it's a little bit more on the rare side that someone has a rock bar in their tool collection, but kind of everyone should have one in Missouri because let's face it, not every hole you dig is going to be with a machine. Everyone at some point is going to be digging something by hand in Missouri. It just is going to happen. And the rock bar is kind of essential because, like I said, I mean, the pickaxe only has about that much depth. And if you're dealing with a boulder like that, you're going to need to bring in a rock bar. And talk about gaining some muscle. If you consistently use a rock bar, those things are no joke. I mean, just even holding one, they're heavy. And what's nice is when you drop them in, that weight does help do a little bit of the work, but really you're going to be needing to put some effort into it as well. And I feel like it's really good for building muscle is using a rock bar. Actually, quick side note, if you start to use hand tools more, you can guarantee that you don't have to go to the gym. You're going to save money there, and you'll save money not using machines as much. So it's a win-win. Okay, now on to a class of tools that is very near and dear to my heart. I may have mentioned before on previous shows that I did forestry work for years and ran saws and all that, but I also just grew up with wood burning stoves my whole life and most of my adult life too. And so cutting firewood has been a very it's like part of my identity. It's like, and I actually enjoy it. I enjoy it so much. Actually, people kind of think I'm crazy, and this is probably like a rural thing, because when I tell this to like urban people who grew up urban, they think it's weird. But like, I think rural people maybe understand it more, but we would line up rounds of wood and have like a little like logging, like almost like a logger competition where you'd have your maul and you'd have to split it into 4 sections and you'd go down the whole line and of course see who would win. And I mean, I don't know why that's weird. It's so fun. And when you have like 5 people doing this, I mean, you're talking like boom, like cord of wood, like quick. So, and you're like hanging out with friends. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we need to incorporate more of these kind of activities into our get-togethers and parties, because we'll just get stuff done. So my absolute favorite Maul is the Stihl Maul. And I am kind of surprised by that. I have tried even some fancy, I don't know, they were probably like Swedish hand forged, right? And I always went back to my Stihl Maul. So I don't know what it is about it. I just think it's the perfect weight. The whole thing like is built like, you know, like a tank. They just always stood up the test of time. Yeah, I just felt like I split better with a Stihl Maul. But when it comes to the rest of my axes, I actually do kind of like the boutique-y stuff. So I do like the Swedish hand-forged axes, and I actually brought an example. This is my favorite company. This is, and I never know how to say it, you know, I'm not a Swede, but a Gransforsbruks. No, just Brook. Gransforbruck. This is the Forester. It's got a wee bit of damage. You know, I've done a little bit of damage over time, but this is an amazing axe, and this is not just something you should have for your homestead, but definitely like just an amazing, like whether you're a survivalist or just love camping or whatever, it's just brilliant axe. So here's what I love about this axe is, one, it's gorgeous. It is built so well. I have thrashed this thing. I've learned how to fell trees with this. So, and that's why there's some damage here, and also just splitting wood sloppily, you know, like we all have done. But, you know, I've messed up and I've misused this thing so much, and yet still it's in such good shape. And I'm not even near, I don't even know how many years I've had this. I'm not even close to having to replace the handle yet. So yeah, so let's talk about all of its functionality. So this axe is amazing for splitting wood. So once you've cut it up with a maul and you want to take it down further, although this seems really small, and it's amazingly powerful. I don't understand it. Maybe some of you archers will understand, like when you have a super lightweight bow and it shouldn't like shoot the poundage that it does, but it does. That's this axe with wood. It's amazing for kindling because it doesn't have too long of a handle, and yeah, so it's really good for that too. But then also I have, so the biggest tree I have felled, I actually fell with 2 other people, and it was like almost like an old growth madrone, and they're one of my favorite trees from California. They're gorgeous and pretty nice hardwood, but like super like dry and easy to split, like just really nice wood. And we cut one that was, I don't know, maybe it was like that big. 3 of us with just 2 axes that we kept going in a circle with, and it didn't even take that much time. It was, I mean, it took a while. We didn't time it, and we were having a good time, so I'm not sure, but I want to say we took it down in like 40 minutes or less, like 30 to 40 minutes. I could be wrong. It could have been longer, and I just was having such a good time, but it was a super great moment. We had taken down a lot of smaller trees, but to take down a beast that just crashed, and I mean, it was pretty powerful. I recommend trying it. And this is actually a good axe to do it with. So we also have, for the Grands Fort Brook, we also have their hatchet, which just for kindling, but I mean, you could probably throw it at something and kill something too. I have killed a chicken. So it is lethal. For sure, obviously it's lethal, but I'm wondering if it's balanced enough to like be a throwing axe. But the hatchet's amazing. I admit I wanted forever, and like I would try to order constantly their double-headed felling axe, I think is what they call it. And I think it also has an American in the title somewhere. And I just thought that thing looked like such a beast, and I just wondered if it would like cut your time in half taking a tree down. But they never had it in stock. So someday I would love to try that tool. If you have a Grands Fort Brook double-headed American felling axe, please leave me a comment and tell me how is it when you fell that tree. The next tools I want to talk about are, I think, just good. They're very useful, except for the first one I'm going to talk about is probably not super useful, but I think that everyone should have them, and that is kind of a little bit with the survivalist prepper bent. I can't help it. It's in me. But here's kind of a list of things that I think that people should have. I think everyone should have either a double or single-sided misery whip. That's the tool that you're probably not going to pull out all the time. But I tell you what, if you ever end up really needing one, meaning you need to stay warm or build shelter or something kind of massive, and you do not have fuel or a chainsaw for whatever reason, it's gonna be like a life or death tool. I mean, it would be very helpful. The next ones though are kind of useful because you could use them for so many different things, but an assortment of bow saws, like just have them. They're so good. And I love double-edged Japanese hand saws, like the kind, there's all sorts of different kinds. Some are like literally just for kind of cutting lumber, but I like the ones that have also kind of a landscaping use too. And they cut like butter, and they cut, you know, both directions, and they're just brilliant. I love them. The Japanese are pretty amazing with their hand tools. Like, they get it. And quick story to go with those tools. So I have expressed to you guys that, you know, I have a sordid past. I was raised by hippies. You know, I too was of the liberal, you know, ilk at one point. And although that led me down a lot of like bad paths, it also led me down some cool paths because I tried to live a very rugged life. I was super into primitive skills, and all that stuff I've kept with me. Some of the things I've kept from my past too is like a love of high quality food, and you know, really getting into the science of like regenerative agriculture, and you know, all the different remediation that people are coming up with. You know, it's fascinating. So that's some of the good stuff. So I at one point lived at what is now a pretty infamous commune, and it was just a nightmare. But that is where I learned to first run saws, which ended up even being a career down the road. So I'm thankful, for the opportunity that I got, and such beautiful land in Siskiyou. And if anyone wants to look up some of the most amazing pictures of natural beauty that you'll ever see, look up the Marble Mountain Wilderness. I literally lived right near there, and it's just gorgeous and rugged and very remote and very desolate in terms of population, and I loved it. So I was living at this commune, and this group of people came in that were super skilled, amazing skill set, but very dogmatic, and I realized very cultish, and they had quite quickly taken over pretty much all different kind of processes of our commune, and I realized they were taking over. And at first I was kind of just watching it and not really upset about it, and they somehow had so much just control that they talked us into implementing this rule, which was that for a year we were not going to use fossil fuels. And one of the guys, he had a big truck, a nice heavy duty diesel, and we were running just biodiesel out of it. And so we would go on over to Oregon and we would pretty much dumpster dive for grease, or go to businesses and just ask them if we could get their grease. But so that was the name of the game, is you got to find a supply of old oil, right? And so when you are burning your fuel, it smells like potato chips and stuff like that. But so I was into it because I thought that was pretty cool. I like also kind of independence, and so that was neat. But it was definitely the chainsaws and my weed whacker, because the weed whacking was huge for fire retention as well, and we had massive forest fires up there. So I was a little skeptical because I did not want to see those tools go, but I'm the kind of person that's let's try it. Okay, let's do it. Let's do a year, no fossil fuels. And so we would probably burn through I would say 10 to 15 cords of wood a year, because there was satellite cabins and a big main house that was super inefficient. Yeah, so a lot of wood. And we did that all with hand tools. And it was pretty incredible. I was pretty stoked on that element. What made me so mad is because I actually have this weird love of weed whacking. I don't know why. I enjoy it, but I love how perfect I can get things to look with it, even when I'm doing fire retention, fuel reduction, or landscaping. I want it to look perfectly mowed with a weed whacker. So they wanted me to do all of that, which we were talking, it was an 80-acre piece. And they wanted me to do it with a hand sigh. And I was just that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And so I was already pretty peed off about that, because, I'm coming from a background in firefighting, growing up in with volunteer fire departments and fighting fire with them. But I realized that the hand tool thing was cool. I wanted to challenge ourselves and try it, but we needed to fireproof and fire ready our property. You know what I mean? So that's what I was a little pissed off and a little on edge about that. And no joke, one day, because what I found out is that these kids who seem like they have nothing, a lot of them are actually trust fund kids. You don't realize it, but they're having money wired to them. They come from uber wealth. That's what I found in a lot of, it's even the primitivist groups, a lot of super undercover rich kids. And one day they just pulled back in, and we're still in our we're supposed to not be using fossil fuels. And they had a brand new Dodge truck that wasn't a diesel. It ran on just gas. They weren't running potato chip oil. And they were just yeah, we just decided to buy this, whatever. And that's when I was I'm gonna go get my weed whacker out. And that was really start of me realizing that I didn't really like the liberal cults, you know, that I was raised by and that I was part of. It was actually kind of cool to have an awakening there. But yeah, it's funny though, because I wanted to mention this because on my list is not a hand sigh, which is a great tool. Like, I'm sure I'm sure I should love them, and maybe someday I'll get over it, but like, I hate them because they represent like that group to me, and just like how ridiculous they were. And I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, I probably should get a hand sigh and have it, but like, I'm gonna use my weed whacker as long as there's fuel. And that wraps up our super niche video about hand tools. You know, there's not enough people making them. Gotta say that. Definitely not enough realtors making videos about hand tools. What's up with that? You know, selling all this real estate and then not recommending tools. I mean, come on, folks. But, you know, seriously, if you've stuck around, thank you. You're special. I know it. If you have gotten something from this video, please hit the subscription. Is it a bell? I don't know. Hit whatever the thing is that says subscription, because it actually really does help the algorithm and whatever AI technology they use. They're going to push this video out more and let the channel grow. So if you haven't yet subscribed, I would love it if you did. And like always, you guys, all my information is in the description. You can call me, text me, email, we can set up a Zoom, whatever you prefer. And if you are thinking about moving to the Ozarks and pickaxing and rock barring some rocks, I'm your gal. Call me up and I'll find you a hunk of land. All right, you guys, until next time, bye.